Recently, something interesting came out about this that I think it's worth talking about because I love it. I've loved movies. I love the filmmaking process. I'm obsessed with it, and I also do think that I'm glad we're getting into an era where we have people that are in charge now that have maybe a little more passion, at least in terms of the DC side of things, for the artists that are working on the projects that they get hired for. And I want to talk about that angle as well with this. Just for some starting context, we have a movie called Suicide Squad that was coming out in 2016 related to the DCEU. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman were establishing movies in that universe with Henry Cavill's Superman. Suicide Squad was the movie that was essentially meant to introduce the villains of that world and kind of really give you a sense of what they're about, how they operate, to understand and flesh out the world building that is that Snyderverse universe. When that happened, there was a lot of hype around the original trailer initially, and it looked like a really dark, interesting, horrific, methodical approach to some characters from DC, and that's was really what got people excited about it with that first teaser trailer initially. As time went on, the trailer started to look a bit different. It was just kind of something that, at the time this movie came out, I thought it was a marketing thing. Like, it's just, yeah, they marketed the movie differently than it was intended to be. Turns out the roles were kind of reversed. It was actually the fact that, yeah, it was marketed like it was intended to be from the teaser trailer. It was filmed to be a dark, horrific, more of a character study on these people that were really flawed. What we got, though, essentially was almost like a Deadpool, Guardians-esque comedic hybrid, and that was because what actually happened from the verbatim of the words of David Ayer, the director of the movie, in this recent interview with Jon Bernthal. That's kind of what got me on this whole tangent into talking about this. And to begin with, in the thought process was that Jon Bernthal essentially asked him what happened with Suicide Squad, and David Ayer said it really broke him. It's because they took a movie, even though they didn't test screen Batman v Superman beforehand, that movie got critically panned. So after that, the studio kind of panicked. So what they did is they decided to essentially show two cuts of Suicide Squad. The original Ayer envisioned movie that explored the abuse stuff with Harley Quinn, the stuff with the Joker being more of a pivotal role in the movie. All of that, the extended cut we saw the teaser trailer for, and then they also showed a different cut that was cut together by some trailer editors, essentially last minute. And that was the version we essentially got in theaters, the movie we all saw. Between those two, it is almost like a Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder cut situation, except with less of that tragic background behind it. This one was almost just done out of malicious intent, almost from the studio. Not malicious intent, but definitely something that was damaging to an artist's vision in that. Something that was supposed to be different. It's not the first time it's happened either, but just seeing this interview, it kind of just reinstilled and doubled down that point of why it's been such a problem for so many years, and really the true reason why a lot of comic book movies have suffered in quality and also just reception is that I think it's a lot of panicking from people who tweet online about movies. I'm kind of a hypocrite talking about movies on this channel, but it all is from the love of movies, and I think sometimes studios just learn the wrong message from that. They see people who are angry and they take those words to heart, but then what you do essentially in that, when you try to please everyone as a majority, you take someone's vision and you try to make that please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, because you end up alienating both sides of the genre love, because you have the people that were into Man of Steel, you have the people that are into Batman v Superman, maybe want something refreshing, that still like the fact that they're dark movies, but maybe the execution is different. That comes in with David Ayer. David Ayer was a different vision than Zack Snyder. Maybe you could have let that different vision play out. That's how we get successes. Marvel letting James Gunn make Guardians of the Galaxy and just letting him play with that was some of the time with Infinity stuff for sure, with the Infinity Stones and that backstory, but all through and through that's a James Gunn movie. Because of that success though, because they let James Gunn take that swing, we are where we are now, where DC has James Gunn at the helm. And I'm not trying to just make this a praise James Gunn video, but more the idea of hiring an artist who loves movies, but also gets the empathetic side of the filmmaking process as well, being in charge of those decisions. There's more empathy there. There's less of a need to cut to get away someone's vision. It doesn't matter whether we would like the original cut of Suicide Squad or whether it'd be good. That's not even what I'm making this video about, but it's really the thought process that I'm realizing now, growing up for about 10 years watching these comic book movies evolve, is I'm kind of tired of that shtick of artists getting undercut of their own vision to please a bottom line, and then the movies don't even end up pleasing that bottom line, and the studios call them a flop, and I'm like, yeah, you kind of walked yourself in that scenario. This isn't always the case, and I'm not saying this to be an anti-studio type of video either, but I think that it is interesting addressing the fact that a lot of the time we end up criticizing these movies that come out, and it's weird that the artists that made the movies are agreeing with us, like, yeah, you're right. Because that's not Jared Leto Joker I filmed or even shot or intended to release to begin with either. You're so right. That performance does not work. Like, I don't like Jared Leto's Joker, but I would argue that we haven't really seen Jared Leto's Joker. We saw a cut-up, trailer-edited version of it, and then we got a glimpse of it with Zack Snyder just shooting something because he got the opportunity to. Whether we need to or not, whether it would be good or not the point. The point is, it happened, and it's weird that it's such a trend. And it's not the first time it's happened, and it's not going to be the last, tragically, but it's something to address that it gets me thinking. It's like, man, how many times are we going to go through this before the studios end up cannibalizing their own properties? Have we kind of seen that? And essentially, we have so many setups and non-payoffs with universes. I'm not saying it's going to be the trend to continue. It's just kind of a stream of consciousness thought process on, like, what do you do to fix it? I think the answer, personally, for me, is just let the artist take the swings. The whole point of a risk is that word of mouth gets it the kind of buzz it deserves. Thunderbolts did not make as much as apparently anticipated, yet word of mouth has gotten the director of Jake Schreier into making an X-Men movie. Like, there's stuff like that to show that there can be trust in vision in the artist, but can studios really commit to listening to that? Tragic to watch someone pour their heart and soul into something and then the studio lacks faith in that director after hurting their own vision. But David Ayer took a lot of the fallout of a movie that he essentially didn't even make because it wasn't his vision at that point. It's tragic, and it's just, I don't know. I kind of want to make a video about it. It's one of those things that I hear about in movie news that does bum me out, and I wish it would become less of a thing. You hear stuff like Nia DaCosta talk about how The Marvels does not feel like her movie, it's Kevin Feige's. Why hire a director with a unique vision if you're not going to let that vision take the swing you hired it to be? I'm not saying it's always going to be a great movie to come out of it, but I would rather take the swing than a safe decision that's cut up and ruining somebody's vision inherently. And it's kind of just something tragic I'm tired of hearing directors have to go through, and I don't know if that's ever going to change, but who knows? It's more of a hope that I just was seeing stuff like James Gunn being in charge, seeing him trust people like Matt Reeves, and seeing him trust people like Mike Flanagan to write something like a Clayface is a bold swing. I want to see Marvel start doing that. Seeing Matt Chapman's vision of Fantastic Four, that movie feels a bit cut up, but still feels like his voice is a bit shining through. I want to see that more from Marvel as well. I hope we kind of get more of that tradition back into just letting artists want to do what they want to do with the movie, with some guardrails in check, sure, to keep your universe in consistency, but at least let the visions play out and be unique. I just can't imagine that. Like, imagine like watching that thing that you just are so passionate about, that thing you love to make, just get butchered up and then released, and you still get blamed for it like it was your vision. Like that. It's scary. It's sad for artists to deal with that. This isn't a release the Ayer cut video. I don't really care to say that. Sure, it'd be fun to watch, but at this point, I've moved on. It was a different creative team at the time. It was a different set of people in charge altogether. Things are different now. It's not to harp on the past. This video's kind of all over the place. It's just more of kind of a tangent than anything. It's just something I've been on my mind. It's always been on my mind for years. Hearing about it with a lot of directors and a lot of people who've come out of these comic book movie properties. And maybe that's where the fatigue is setting in. It's the comic book movie fatigue that I feel like I have. Is I don't have comic book movie fatigue, but I do have fatigue from watching artists have their visions be hurt, have their movies be butchered to meet a bottom line. It's bumming to watch. Like, I would rather have an artist have their vision fulfilled than we react to it and the world moves on proceedingly accordingly. I don't care to sound smarter than I am with this. I don't really care to say release the Ayer cut or release the Snyder cut or do any of that or restore the Snyderverse. It's more of just a video saying, hey, I just feel bad for a dude that got his job butchered when he was very passionate about it. And I was kind of empathy for that, and I don't know. It sucks. People deserve better than that. Artists, filmmakers deserve better than that. And just all around. That's really all I got. Damn.